Hey everyone, Dave here with another episode of the Philly Tech Connect podcast for Philly Tech entrepreneurs. I'm here today with Garrett Love. Garrett went to school for advertising, but he now works full-time as a software engineer at a startup. But his dream, for as long as he can remember, has been to be an entrepreneur, which is why he started Lyfer, which is an app that is currently in development. It's in the early stages, working on developing, product market fit. It's a community-based app for helping individuals connect, to form deeper relationships. But he will tell us obviously more about it and what he's got in mind. Garrett, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate everything you've been doing in the community and being one of the first startups to kind of pitch at a recent event.
I mean,
You went to school for advertising and now you're doing software engineering. Tell us a little bit about that switch, like switching disciplines and learning new skills and finding work. I'm curious kind of how that panned out.
yeah, I don't know if I'd really call it a switch because I never actually worked in advertising. So my last year of college, short version, last year of college, I was working on this business idea, didn't know how to code, so I was using WordPress, and I ran into an issue with a contractor where they canceled the contract on me like midway through, and I was kind of stuck. I really needed what they were working on. And since I didn't know how to code, it really frustrated me that, I was so dependent on someone else's skill set, which it was an amazing skill set, obviously. And so I taught myself how to code. And then when it came time to look for jobs, I kind of, of course, applied to the marketing advertising jobs. And I also figured, why not? I'll just apply to the coding jobs. And, when you're graduating college, you just need a job. So you're going to take whatever comes your way first. And as luck would have it, I was given or offered a coding job first.
That's awesome, man. Congrats. I've known people to, be interested obviously in making like a career switch into coding. They've gone through like boot camps and things like that. It
Yep.
sounds like you're pretty self-taught and then, you kind of put yourself out there and found an opportunity. But,
Yep.
was it difficult? Because I honestly, I understand probably the first job's kind of entry level job, but like nevertheless, like if you don't necessarily have a lot of experience, you're relatively new to the field, you're self-taught, like was there a lot of rejections? Like what was it like?
So I used recruiters, and I definitely had some rejections. I remember going to interviews and just kind of being like, just honestly, just stumped on some of these problems because I didn't have those courses that taught me how to think about algorithms or things like that are really important in the coding world. And I actually took like a few of the site Udemy. Have you ever heard of that?
Of course, yeah, online education
Yeah,
courses and things like
so
that.
I took like one or two of those courses, and that's how I learned. And that was all the education I had. So, I ended up just finding a company that, for whatever reason, enjoyed hiring entry level people and giving them a shot and teaching them. And I don't know, just luck or fate or just I don't know, all around just fortunate to have been in the right place at the right time, I guess. But really up to that company, they really did me a solid there.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that. Many years ago, like 15 years ago, I went to like Lake Tahoe with a group of some guys, and they invited some other friends, and like the founder of Udemy was there. But like at the time, I was like, "Hey, what are you working on?" It's like, "Oh, it's like this online education platform or whatever it's
Yeah,
called, like Udemy." And I was like, "Cool." And now, now it's like very well known, and he's
that's
probably
the
very,
coolest
very
thing.
wealthy. No, that story's terrible. But
No, it's a
but
great. What are you talking about, man? It's a great
yeah,
story. Do you
it's
still do you still like talk to that person?
I do not. Yeah, it was more, he was a friend of a friend. So it wasn't
Okay,
someone that
okay,
I knew
okay.
personally, and he was out west, and I live out east and everything. But it's just
Oh,
one of those things where it's kind of like it's like I knew him before, his thing was big or whatever. Or at least I met him before his thing was big. And it's cool that it adds some value in your life like that.
yeah.
In any
That's
case, jobs aside, you said for as long as you can remember, you've wanted to be an entrepreneur, and it sounds like you've kind of also, experimented with some different business ventures. Tell me about this early interest, passion, whatever it may be, in being an entrepreneur. Where does that come from?
Where does it come from? I have no idea. Just kind of was there ever since I can remember, maybe like first or second grade. Didn't know what the word entrepreneur was, didn't like never heard of it, but kind of knew that I wanted to start my own thing in some capacity. Um, and I think, when I got to college, probably is when I really got the opportunity to try doing things. So I started, or at least tried to start like a number of things while I was in college. Like, for example, that thing I was telling you about that led me to learning how to code. Um, And ultimately, here we are now. I don't know that I'll ever leave that dream in the past. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats on, making the effort, trying to kind of find the ways to create your own things. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for that. So now you're working on an app called Lyfer.
yes,
I
sir.
did as good of a job as I can to kind of explain it in short, but why don't you tell us what you have in mind here?
So you kind of mentioned this, right? Trying to find product market fit. And so to that end, there is still some like open-endedness, if you will, in what it ultimately will become. Um, but I think, there is, as I mentioned in my pitch a few weeks ago, like there's a loneliness epidemic. Um, so the Surgeon General calls it. And that is just, it's insane to me that we live in a world where everyone is so connected and you can meet people with the snap of your fingers through the technology or whatever, and yet people somehow for some reason are still more lonely than ever, and in more quantities than ever. And so I think that's really the goal, is to kind of solve that loneliness epidemic, because despite all of these different apps and pieces of technology coming out, the problem still seems to be there. And I think that the way to do that, or one of the ways to do that, is through helping people to build community. And that means different things to different people. Um, but in any case, no matter what that means to you, I want to be able to provide, you the user, or you a group organizer. Like we've talked about working together with PTE and stuff, right? And so I want to be able to provide the tools to be able to, build community for people in whatever way they see fit. That's kind of the goal.
Yeah, I love the concept, and I feel like that's kind of where we're at, in sort of this concept stage. We've definitely talked about it with Philly Tech entrepreneurs. You mentioned like kind of the loneliness epidemic, referencing kind of the Surgeon General. I've heard that as well. That loneliness is like equated to almost like smoking cigarettes or something, or worse. It's one of those like it's very unhealthy. It's one of like the leading causes of I don't know, like unhealthiness in later years. If you don't have
Yeah.
like a sense of community, it's you end up really kind of missing something in your life. And we've talked about it for Philly Tech entrepreneurs, but even just I'll talk about it with my wife, us feeling kind of like we want to meet more people that we feel like we connect with, kind of forming like a community. There's different people we know, different friends, but I don't know if I feel like we have a sense of community right now. So it's an important problem to be approaching. Where are you, how are you kind of going about identifying the direction for this product to kind of know where to take it?
Well, I think in any case, when you want to start a business, you hopefully want to start that business for the people that you're trying to serve. And so, be that the general population, be that group organizers such as yourself, be that, high level executives in some capacity that maybe you come to later on, um, or hobbyists, or whatever the case is, you know, I think you go about it by talking to people, by listening to people, and seeing where their frustrations lie. Because I can have all the opinions that I want in the world, but they're pretty meaningless if no one actually, they don't like resonate with anybody. And so that's kind of been, my goal and my path forward thus far has been, talking to as many group organizers as possible. Because I think I actually already launched the app. Like the app is on the App Store right now for both iOS and Android. And I had this go-to-market strategy that didn't exactly go the way that I thought it would. And so, which, is very normal. And kind of circled back thinking about different ways to approach the problem. And I thought maybe, existing group organizers would be a good way to kind of touch in with people. And so that has really been my go-to-market strategy 2.0, if you want to think of it that way. So yeah, just talking to people and listening to their problems, right? Like we kind of talked about, well, not kind of, we very much so did talk about that. Like we had a couple meetings talking about that, right? And there's some other groups that I've been talking to as well, and so hopefully that you know makes something useful.
The next step, yeah, for sure, customer development, it's what it's really all about. But it's important to kind of hone in on that customer persona, right? Because my needs as a husband and wife looking for like another couple to play game night with or something is different than me as a group organizer trying to make sure that people are finding each other sort of relevant connections at events, in-person events that we do. So, the needs are there, but it's sort of making sure that it's directed at a profile that they have enough overlapping and common needs to sort of invest in the app.
Yeah.
I'm excited obviously about talking more about it offline as well, and introducing it to PTE in the kind of upcoming 2024 year. We're looking at ways in which we can kind of level up the community. I think that this could be a good one to get started with. For people that want to get in touch with you, they want to find out more about Lyfer, what you're working on, how should they do that?
Well, you can email me, Garrett@lyfer.app. That's always an option. I'm also in the Slack for PTE, so message me. I'm there every day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it, man. And just lastly, I assume you are kind of as you work a full-time job, and you're also working on developing this product, and maybe who knows, maybe other things as well. How do you kind of go about balancing like the work balance? I won't say work-life balance, the work balance.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a great question. I want to give you like a profound answer that like sticks in people's heads or helps people or something.
Don't put too much pressure on yourself. It could just be, just do it and just quote Nike or something.
Isn't that always the case? Just do it,
Pretty much.
no matter what you're doing.
Yeah. Unless it's like drugs or something.
Yeah, don't do
But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Say no to drugs. In my case, like I've noticed one, like your reason why is really important. You should start with why you're doing something. And if you're doing it because you want to make money or because you want the clout, social recognition, it's going to require a lot of willpower for you to do the thing that you're thinking that you want to do. And willpower is finite. But if your why is because you want to, as Steve Jobs put it, I believe he said, make a dent in the universe, it's going to be a lot easier for you. And I think for me, like working my 9 to 5 is great. I really love the people that I work with. I believe in the mission of the company. I enjoy the company as a whole. Like it's just a great experience. But being an entrepreneur for me is very fulfilling in like so many different ways because you have to wear so many different hats that, it makes it easy for me to tack on an extra 40 hours of work for my app, right? Like it doesn't feel like work to me. It feels like play, Actually, can I give you like a book recommendation to everyone?
Yeah, hit me.
I gotta look this up, so give me a second.
While you look it up, I'm just going to say some things as it is for my role here. But the why part is great, well said. We have different levels of motivation, different reasons of motivation. Money is a common motivator, and it has reasonable power for sure. But wanting to make a dent in the universe, wanting to have impact, I think that there's kind of a hierarchy of motivations. And if you can really kind of tap into that highest level of wanting to add value to a community, have impact in society, things like that, it's going to make the process a lot easier. So that being said, the book recommendation, I've never had one of those, so this would be great. I mean, on this podcast.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, to your point about the money, I mean, look, I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to make money, right? Like that's
nothing wrong with it.
Good with ourselves. But okay, the book recommendation, I don't remember who recommended this to me, but I'm gonna get this name so wrong, so I apologize, but I'll spell it out. The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, Ravikant. And he's the one who said, like it's like this book is like, I don't know, just like all of this dude's like sayings and tweets and stuff like that and like anecdotal stories, and it's really interesting. But he's the one that kind of put in perspective for me, like find the thing that feels like play for you and go 100%, because you're going to be able to outwork everybody else in that space, because if it feels like work for them but play for you, they're going to give up at some point, but you're just going to love it.
Nice. Awesome, man. I appreciate it. That's the first time I've heard that book recommendation, but it sounds like it's had an impact on you, and I hope it has an impact on anyone else willing to give it a chance. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, no problem.